Y'all are live.
Welcome in, Campo and Joe, fired up and ready to go. A beautiful Tuesday, 9:25 a.m. And we're going to hang out, talk some Jaguar ball for about the next half hour or so. So if you are out and about, you get that post, just jump on the stream, say hello. We'd love to hear from you. Joe C. from XL Primetime, and my man right there, Dave Campo, our head coach, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Coach, you ready to fire today?
Absolutely. It's another week, and let's go. Let's talk Jaguars.
Exactly. Let's talk Jaguars ball. By the way, happy Father's Day to every Jaguar fan out there. You had a good Father's Day, I trust.
I did. Had my son Tommy, who's in town here. A little bittersweet because he's moving to Arkansas. So we're empty nesters here now. So it was a little bittersweet, but at the same time, we had a good meal. Had one of my son-in-laws here as well, Brian. So had a good meal and had some fun.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. That's good. All right. So I by the way, Coach, with the Father's Day, I got the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, the one that Ralphie dreamed about. And the only reason that the kids got it for me was because there's a varmint in my backyard and I need to take care of him.
Okay. That rat's still hanging out around there?
Yeah. Well, one's gone. And if another one comes up, I now can flash the Daisy Red Ryder at him. Okay.
Get after it.
I'll be ready to go. All right. So let's talk some Jaguar ball. You guys are invited more than as far as anything that you guys got cooking in your brain. If you are watching the stream, absolutely jump in. We'd love to throw a question up from you guys. So just hang out with us and let's talk some Jaguar ball. Tuesday and Friday, most weeks during this off-season period. We'll be with you around this time, either 9:25 in the morning or 10:10. So definitely look out for us, and we appreciate it. That's for sure. All right, Coach, when we did our show on Friday, we were coming out of minicamp, and we were talking a little bit about what you saw and what I saw. And now basically everybody is on break. And so now we thought, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these position groups, where we think the strengths lie. But then also PFF put out some rankings of the top 32 players at each position, and they obviously, with a critical eye, looked at this franchise, and they didn't necessarily load up with Jaguars among their top 32 at each position. And look, this is a perfect time for this team to prove that they have moved up roster-wise and made a better starting 11 on each side to where people are going to start taking notice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, the people they had on there, I believe they had 6, correct?
Yeah.
6 guys. And I think that's legitimate because some of the other guys that we feel that are pretty good players have not proved themselves yet. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I think this is a prove it year, new scheme, new coaches. It's an opportunity for some guys that I think are pretty good football players to jump into that top 32 at their position. And that's kind of what we're looking at this year. And hopefully that comes together in a 10-win season, in a playoff berth, in a AFC South win.
Yeah, so that's what they're hoping for. Now, let's just roll through some of these as far as a half dozen, according to PFF. Like we said, we always like it when they say something good. We bash them when they say something bad. You know how it goes. We just take whatever PFF spits out and we just try and digest it as hopefully in a positive way with your Jags. So these are a half dozen guys on the offensive side of the football. And let's at least start with a couple of guys that I do think still have question marks next to their name. But there were 3 offensive linemen, Coach. And Yoda, you can throw up that offensive lineman depth chart if you have it, or roster list if you have it. But Robert Hainsey is a guy that comes over from Tampa. He's going to play center. He was listed as the 23rd best center, even though he lost his job last year to a rookie, which is kind of interesting. But he is – look, when Graham Barton came in, he was regarded, and he took that job. But Hainsey is expected to come in here and be a guy that can run Liam Cohen's offense, make the calls at the line of scrimmage. So let's start with these linemen. Robert Hainsey, 23rd among centers in the NFL.
Yeah, I have a lot of excitement about that move because to me, the big part of the center is how comfortable he is in the scheme and, how comfortable he is with other linemen. I think that's the issue. You got some new guys that have to come together, but I'm happy that they've got him where they've got him, and I think he's one of the guys that has to prove that he's better than that. And again, there's a lot of backup players in the National Football League that are pretty good football players. And so I'm counting on him. He's got starting experience. And that's going to be a big issue for us. And the center position is extremely important. So hopefully he will get enough work between now and when we open the season that he can move up in that ranking.
Yeah, and you did not sound the alarm after what we saw during minicamp, and I loved your explanation of it, that there's going to be a lot less zone blocking, a lot more gap blocking to get the run game going, but you can't do that with the pads off. You definitely can do it when you're trying to attack pads on once we get into training camp, but when you think of what he can bring, it's that familiarity and his veteran leadership. So we're going to see what happens. Mitch Morse was there a year ago, a 10-year vet who ends up retiring. And we all know the interior part of that offensive line just didn't do enough to get this to really get the run game going or give Trevor enough time to make some big plays. Patrick McCary, he is in from Baltimore, signed to take over that right guard spot that Brandon Sheriff had for such a long time. Macari, when you take a look at some of the numbers, Coach, most of his snaps in 2024 with the Ravens were at left guard. He now moves over to the right guard, but he only allowed a sack and didn't give up any quarterback hits, according to PFF, in 577 pass blocking snaps. I call that pretty dang good, and that's what this guy needs to be. Protect Trevor and then do your job as far as a run blocker.
Yeah, what was he, 28th or something like that?
Yeah, 28th.
28th. And, to me, that's a beautiful prove-it situation right there, just like Hainsey is, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that gives him a lot of credence is the fact that he's played a number of different positions. He's had enough snaps, 500, to evaluate him, and they've got him in that position, which – I think he's better than that, to be perfectly honest with you, from what I've seen. And so that's a prove-it situation. I think there's no question those two guys, Hainsey and Macari, are upgrades from what we had a year ago. Right. That's the most important thing to me, is that we're headed in a direction to get better. And I think those two guys, and especially Macari, because I think Macari really, to be honest with you, it's a little tougher to play center, I think. Guard, I think he's in a position where he can improve a great deal on helping us with those big the big defensive linemen attacking the quarterback. So he's going to be a guy that to me, has got to prove who he is with this group. And I like him for sure.
All right, we're going to get to the last guy that the PFF ranked as the top 32 at his position among the 32 teams. But I do love some of the names that we get on our chat. So you guys jump in. Definitely said, let's talk Jags. What an ear orgasm, which just makes me laugh. And then also when we talk about another texter, guy watching the show puts in the chat, the entire O-line is a giant question mark. And look, I'm not saying that it is 100% solid. I agree with you. It is a giant question mark, but this is a bottom line business, Coach. They've had a bad offensive line as a starting five. They need to figure out combination-wise how they can make it better, make Walker Little, Anton Harrison look good at both tackle positions with a better interior three.
Yeah, there's no question that that's a question mark. I mean, I think we're going to talk a little bit later in the podcast about the different positions strength-wise with the Jaguars. One of my three at the bottom would be the interior. And that's a prove-it. Whether it's Ezra Cleveland in there at the other line, the guard position, or whether it's Milam or whoever it is there, that's a prove-it group right there. But again, I believe it's an improvement over what we had a year ago, and that remains to be seen.
All right, so now the next guy that was ranked among the top 32 at his position, which was 32nd, he was the last to make the list, Walker Little, and PFF puts in there basically saying 8 starts last year. He ranked 18th in PFF pass blocking, the efficiency metric that they use, 27th out of 76 tackles in run blocking. And so we'll find out whether or not that's going to be good enough. But we know this, okay? It needs to be double the starts, okay? Not 8, 17 consistent starts at that left tackle position. Stay healthy, be Trevor's blindside protector. And look, he's a big enough man. He's got good feet. And if he can just settle in there and be the guy that, well, you and I and everybody else saw late in 2022, that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, and Walker Little is athletically everything you're looking for at that position, with the exception of he's got to get better in the run game.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that hopefully the more opportunities he has, the more starts he has, the better opportunity he's going to have to do that. Again, I think there's question marks there as well, but I really think our offensive line coach, Surratt, came out and said he needs to just solidify the position. Just like you said, he's got to come out there and just show that he's the guy, and let's move forward with it. And I think he has the talent to do that. I think it's, whether or not how much he wants to do it and how important it is to him. But listen, I still feel better about the tackles than I do the interior. So to me, he's a guy that at least he made the rankings, and if you're 18th in pass blocking, you're doing a pretty good job, in my opinion. And he's just got to get going in the run game. And I think they're going to give him every opportunity, because I think they're going to emphasize the running game this year.
Yeah, they have to be physical. One of our viewers definitely pointed it out that Liam's system definitely gives him hope, because he did a lot with what he viewed as very little in Tampa. And I'll just point out real quick that was a pretty dang good offensive line down in Tampa. They've drafted well. When you take a look at what Jason Light has done down there as a general manager, they were able to find Bucky Irvin late in the draft, and with good blocking up front, they made him look good. Rashard White looked good. And so, yeah, that scheme is everything as far as what Liam Cohen is bringing to the table. All right, so after we look at the line of scrimmage, let's get to a couple of other guys that were ranked on the offensive side as far as top 32 at their position. And not a surprise, Brian Thomas Jr. moving up in the ranks because of what he's been able to do. He is 15th right now, Coach, according to them. I started looking at some of the wide receivers right now in the National Football League, and he can climb into the top 12, depending on what he does. But he had the third most receiving yards in the NFL last year as a rookie. And when you take a look at what Liam's going to try and do, he's going to absolutely open up some opportunities for BTJ. So he's 15th among wide receivers.
Yeah, there's no question he's in the top 15. I mean, I would have ranked him higher than that. But personally, that as far as PFF is concerned, 15th is a pretty darn good receiver. And to me, he has all the tools to improve it as well. I think that the addition of Diami Brown and Hunter gives him an opportunity to do even more this year. And I think he will do even more. I think the guy's proven that he can go deep. He can catch the ball inside. He's got ability when you throw him the football quickly to make some things happen in the run after catch area. So he's probably one of the best 22 players, one of the best of that whole group that'll be lined up this year for the Jags. And I like him a lot.
All right, so let's just stay on the wide receivers just for a second, because PFF did put out their top wide receivers. Since we were mentioning the top 32, let's at least hit a few of these, Coach. And again, their metrics, you can rip them, you can do whatever, but they have A.J. Brown as the number one wide receiver, which I do think is kind of interesting. But he is a big human being that can really get going. And when you take a look at what one-on-one situations, what he can do in terms of winning a 50-50 ball, but he got the highest receiving grade versus single coverage last year, which is pretty good. Then they went Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown was 4th. Puka Nakua was 5th. CeeDee Lamb 6th. Nico Collins from Houston was 7th. Tyreek Hill 8th. Mike Evans 9th. Terry McLaurin 10th. You got any problem with any of those guys?
No, not really. I like all those guys.
Yeah. And then from 11 to where we get to BTJ, Drake London, when healthy, is superb. He is a big, huge catch radius, big man that can fly. But I do think Brian Thomas Jr., because he was healthy and upright more than Drake London was better than Drake. But that's just me. Malik Neighbors was 12th. Garrett Wilson was 13th. And then T. Higgins right in front of BTJ.
Yeah, I think BTJ is going to pass 3 or 4 of those guys right out of the gates.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I like Drake London. He was at SC. I know the guy. I think this guy has an opportunity to be better than he is because of just flat out speed. And I think he's a guy that he can move up to that 10, 11 right out of the blocks.
Right.
I'm just excited about him because I think he just hasn't had an opportunity to prove it yet. They didn't even start getting him the football last year till about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
So when they start zeroing in on him and the other guys that are there that'll take a little pressure off of the double covers on him, I think he works right up into very close to the top 10.
Yeah, like the Bengals are a great example. Of the top 14, right ahead of Brian Thomas Jr., they had T. Higgins and then, of course, Jamar Chase very close to the top of the board. And so those are 2 guys in the top half of this all 32 ranking from PFF that are wearing the same uniform. And you hope that Travis Hunter can do some of the same things for Jacksonville that T. Higgins has been able to do, because T. Higgins makes a pretty good living opposite Jamar Chase. Coach, you get where I'm going? So Travis Hunter might be able to do some of the same stuff.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, if you tell me tomorrow, can we have T. Higgins or can we have BTJ? I'm taking BTJ right now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about as a guy that in the future is in what you would say a true number 1 receiver. Higgins is not a true number 1 receiver. And I think that's where, he can move up rapidly depending upon the scheme, depending upon our quarterback, how many times we can get the ball to him. All those things are factors. I like him. I think you can just flop he and Higgins right now, if you ask me. But then, he's going to rise above that in my mind.
Yeah, I like it. And another one of our viewers chimes in on the weapons that this team has and simply says Trevor doesn't need a great offensive line. He just needs an above average line. And with these weapons, all he needs is a second to find his wideouts. And that, honestly said, is going to be so key that he gets the ball out quickly, that he makes good decisions and gets the ball on time to his receiver, throwing him open. That was a big discussion that a lot of guys, when we're standing around watching practice, Tommy Mack included, when we're sitting there going, if he can just start to throw these guys open, which is the footwork that Liam is working with Trevor on right now, that's going to be a huge, huge piece of it. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
For many years in Dallas, we were a timing-based passing game. And that's what Liam Cohen's offense is. It's a timing-based passing game. So some of the stuff you see in the spring here in OTAs, it's a combination of the receivers and the quarterback, because the receivers have to learn, how many steps, when they have to make their breaks, all those kind of things. And the quarterback and the receivers have to be on the same page. This is not just about running a square in and beating the receiver, beating the DB. It's about being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So it's really a combination between the quarterback and the receivers. And what the person that sent the text in is correct.
Yeah.
The footwork of the quarterback has to be precise in order to do his part in making sure the timing attack works together.
Yeah. And I tell you what he is most correct about, and you can pop this one up on there, Yoda. He says also, I'm fired up that Coach Campo is back. Love your football intake. So that's what they're looking for from you, Coach, which is just awesome. And look, you and I and everyone else, we're trying to figure out what it looks like. And coming out of minicamp, I think you got to feel a little bit better about what the potential of this offense is. It may not have won as much against the defense in the handful of days we were able to watch practice, but they're building something on that side of the ball with more weapons than we've seen in a while.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to Trevor, okay? And look, he needs to climb in these quarterback rankings. We all know that. It's taking care of the football. It's making the big play. I really want to see him start to use his wheels this year, which I think Liam will help greatly in that regard. But at the top of the list, as you can imagine, let's just rattle through them. You got the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Lamars of the world, 1, 2, 3. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts making up the top 5. Jaden Daniels shot out of a rocket as a rookie last year. PFF puts him 6th. Matt Stafford 7th. Justin Herbert 8th. Jared Goff 9th. And then 10th is Geno. Now, I think Trevor can be better than Geno, but Geno did take care of the football. So where do you come in on Geno being a top 10 quarterback right now?
Well, again, he's like what we're talking about with the receivers. In other words, that's a guy. Look, when we did Trevor came in 16th? Is that correct? Or
yes.
16th, right?
Yeah, 15th.
15th?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Remember, we've gone through that before on the Primetime show about where we felt Trevor fit in the quarterback room. And that's right where we had him, right there. Well, let me say this. He is more talented than that spot. But that's where he is right now. But there are guys from there to the top 10 that he, in my opinion, can be better than if he shows that. He has to prove that. It's just like the other people that we got going here. And hopefully the scheme makes a difference and all those kind of things. But if you said to me, out of the 32 quarterbacks, where would you take Trevor Lawrence right now, where he is today? He would be right there. That's what we've said right along. So I think PFF hit him right on the nose. And then now it's up to him to prove that he can move up into the top 10. And he has the talent to do that. And then the combination of more time, better receiver timing, all those kind of things hopefully will move him up closer to that top 10 ranking.
Yeah, multiple targets to get the ball to. They need Brenton Strange to step up big time, along with these receivers. Travis Hunter needs to integrate himself quickly, and the run game needs to be there for him to be able to do it. But I agree with you, Coach. It's incumbent on Trevor to say, hey, I got to be better. I got to be cleaner, and I got to pick up this offense as quickly as I can. And then Liam, free him up with some good run game. So, Trevor, just for what it's worth, Coach, Dak Prescott was right behind him. Kyler Murray was right in front of him. C.J. Stroud was 2 spots ahead of him. Baker, who Liam had last year, was in the top 13. Jordan Love was 12th. Brock Purdy 11th. And so those are the guys that there's no reason why he can't take a step forward and supplant some of these guys a little closer to the top 10.
And I'll tell you what, you can pump the brakes a little bit. I said this about Stroud last year. That rookie quarterback room, you can pump the brakes on that. The guy from Washington, he's got to prove it again, in my opinion. Everybody's got him now. He's the next guy. There's been a lot of those next guys that move down up the ladder, down the ladder rather than up the ladder. I think I think that's reversed. I'm saying there's more guys going up the ladder than down the ladder towards the top of that bird. So whatever it is, you can pump the brakes a little bit on those rookies. I think the guy did a great job, obviously. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I think Trevor can move up, in my opinion, this year.
All right, so let's just finish off with the top 6, according to PFF, or excuse me, the 6 players the Jaguars have on offense that were part of the top 32 at each position. So they got 6 on that side of the ball. Just to highlight the next position, Travis Etienne, 32nd among 32. So he's another guy just like Walker Little down near the bottom, but still ranked. But just to point out, you guys know who the guys are at the top. The Bijan Robinsons of the world, the Saquon Barkleys, the Derrick Henrys, Jahmyr Gibbs among the top 5, along with Josh Jacobs. The interesting one, Coach, Bucky Irving, according to PFF, 6th. Okay, we're talking about a rookie that came in and immediately took the spotlight away from Rashad White. 90 rushing grade, 90.0 was his PFF rushing grade, 62 forced missed tackles, led the NFL with 3.93 yards after contact. That's the type of stuff that Jacksonville's looking for right now.
Yeah, and I like Bucky Irvin. I think they did a great job with him over there. I think he's a little bit of a product of the offensive line improvement in Tampa Bay. I think Travis Etienne, he's, in my opinion, he's on the trading block, in my opinion. They may have him whatever they got him, 32 or whatever, and that's the end of the line there of the top guys. And to me, he's a good player. I think, again, if they were going to make a trade, that's where it would happen, in my opinion. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised. But at the same time, if they keep him, he's proven, and here's where I think his plus is, in my opinion, is his ability to get the ball out in space. I think they're going to get him in a little bit more in that, which, number one, is part of that timing attack where the quarterback can get rid of the football if you get the backs out, get him into position to catch the football, and he catches the ball really well, and he's got really good speed once he catches the football. So I think he's a good back. I think he's worthy of the top 32, but he's a guy that's going to be – there's going to be some question here as it gets close on where he ranks, especially with them taking Tootin and the kid LaQuint LaQuint Allen, right?
Yeah.
From Syracuse. With taking the backs that they took, there's a chance that he may be here or he may not be here.
So let me just hit some of the guys that were around where ETN is. He filled out the list 32nd. PFF says he struggled in 2024, just a 63.5 PFF rushing grade, and just really not the numbers that you want. But at the same time, everything you just listed, if they can turn things around where there's a better bunch up front, giving him some clear lanes to run through an attack and not get hit at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, and then obviously float him out in the flat and let him catch some of these just easy little wheel routes or whatever they might be, like you're describing, Coach, it's going to be huge. So just in front of ETN was Brian Robinson Jr. of Washington, Tyrone Tracy of the New York Giants, Ramondre Stevenson, who was up and down with the New England Patriots, but he's still ranked ahead of ETN. And then they start throwing in a couple of rookies in this whole deal as well, which kind of cracks me up a little bit. Chase Brown was 25th from the Bengals, Najee Harris 26th, who was with Pittsburgh and now is with the Chargers. So he's got the ability with this offense, if he can get it going, to move up.
Yeah, and again, I think my evaluation of ETN is that he's not going to move up very much farther, in my opinion. I think he's a good back, and I think that's what he is. And hopefully they'll get him an opportunity. Look, he's a perimeter runner. When it really comes down to it, he's a perimeter runner. And I think you pointed out the last time we talked that they ran inside the tackles a bunch of times. That's not 70%. Yeah, that's not his strength. I think they have to diversify how they're running inside the tackles, though. More block, gap block and that type of thing. If they get that going with a combination of he and Bigsby and wherever Tootin works into that mix, he'll have a chance to be a little bit better if they can get him the ball on the perimeter a little bit more. And that aligns with getting him out into the passing game a little bit.
Yeah, and during minicamp and even really OTAs, we saw LaQuint Allen in the backfield, and he is cat quick, facial Tootin, like you're talking about, from Virginia Tech. If he can take care of the football, because he's a guy who did cough it up a little bit in ACC play last year. But just a few of the guys that are chiming in on the chat. Tank Bigsby, yeah, I think he's going to break out this year. Don't sleep on Tank, and a few others have been basically chiming in on that same subject. And then another, get rid of ETN, take advantage of Bigsby and Tootin. Tootin needs to complement Bigsby, and I don't think ETN needs to be shipped out necessarily, because I think there's enough opportunity for all, let's just call it three of these running backs, Coach, to be impact players.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just think that he's the one that's on the bubble, in my opinion, to get something that they really want or need, if that's the case. I don't know that he's going to be traded. I'm just saying he's on that bubble. There are some guys that are not going to be traded. There are some guys that probably will be out of here. He's not one of those. He's kind of on the bubble. And the other thing that I noticed in the OTAs that I saw in the mini camp was they're doing a lot with putting the back out, in a receiver position, and then bringing him back in so that they can tell whether it's man-to-man or zone for the quarterback. Well, when you do that, they can just as well leave him out there and have him run some routes as well. So I think that's ETN, where he gives you value that Tank Bigsby does not give you. Yeah. So when you put the two of them together, and that's where the two can be, work together on what they're doing in those situations.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that fans got to be eating that up right now, because those are the things that Trevor can feed off of, that he needs to make a quick decision at the line of scrimmage pre-snap based on motion and what you're describing right now, because this whole predictability thing was pretty damn obvious last year. And so they need to have little wrinkles, little opportunities that you can run play off of play based on what you see defensively.
Right. Yeah. And I think that they're trying to do that. I'm hopeful that there's going to be a little diversity, in what they're doing. And I think that puts the pressure on the defense. Obviously, to me, that's the difference between professional football and college football. And as a defensive coach, if you're playing in a college game, if you stop their 5 best plays, you're probably going to win the game. Yeah. In the NFL, the diversity factor comes in, with more professional players and coaches, experience-wise. If you stop their 5, they should be able to come out with 5 different ones. And that's why you see a lot of difference between first half and second half in ball games in the National Football League. So I think that diversity puts the pressure on the defense, and I think that's important.
All right. Love it, Coach. Love it, Coach. As usual, you hit a home run. You were like Shohei last night. He didn't pitch necessarily as well as I would have liked, but he still was able to take care of business, okay? That's what you did today.
Yeah, well, you're a Dodger homer, so that doesn't surprise me. The Yankees, they are worth a Carlos Caballos right now because they're not hitting. So something's got to happen over there.
That's why I didn't call you the Aaron Judge of Campo and Joe.
Absolutely. Right, and I love Aaron Judge. He's doing fine. It's his other characters that aren't not coming through right now.
Yeah. All right. So we had a good time. So we will miss Friday's show because you're going to be in Leon Searcy's golf tournament.
Yes.
Having a good time there. But then we'll be back Tuesday, and we will definitely start to knock out the other side of the ball where guys rank, and then position groups, and we'll have fun with that as we go along during the offseason.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach, we will see you on XL Primetime. Yoda, thanks as always for taking care of us, producing this puppy, and for all y'all hanging out with us on the Jaguars 1010XL YouTube channel or wherever you catch us. Definitely shoot us a note on X, whatever. We appreciate the heck out of it. That's for sure. Campo and Joe, we will talk to you next week.